Hello everybody, this is Spy here, and we are logging into the Templar today for the first time that we are going to be doing a build guide. Now, this Templar here, as we're logging in, I'm going to give a little quick rundown. He is a Magicka Templar, and we are using many vampire abilities to further enhance the Magicka capabilities. Right now we are going into our home, and we will log in here in just a minute. Alright, so here we are on the Templar today. We have our Magicka build, and we are going to run inside real quick and sit down on our luxurious throne covered with precious metals and next to our kitty cat. So, here we are. This place isn't always furnished completely, but we're making our way there. Now, here we are. We are sitting on our Daedric throne, quite comfy today. The fire's roaring, and everything's gonna be alright. So, let's go into the build here. Now, today we're not gonna be talking about our gear and stuff like our poisons and what we usually run on other builds, but we're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna talk about what we have done with this build specifically, right? And there's a lot of things that can be talked about here, but we're going to just try to stay on track, get done what we need to get done, and afterwards we'll have a small talk about it. So here we are, we have the skills pulled up, and we're going to be looking at what we need to be using and how effectively some of these abilities will become, especially in our later abilities, and specifically a lot of interesting combinations that we can do with a lot of our abilities and how they synergize quite well together. Now, let's go ahead and we're going to talk about Aedric's Spear. This is a Templar build, so you know what we're going to already be taking. It's going to be Puncturing Sweeps. Puncturing Sweeps. Launch Relentless Assault, striking the enemies in front of you 4 times with your Aedric Spear. The spear does 2,000 magic damage to the closest enemy and about 752 all around it. Each strike reduces the movement speed of the closest enemy by 40% for 1 second, and you heal for 40% of the damage done with this ability. Now, we're going to talk about later how that's going to be very important to us, that heal. But healing is always good. There's never a point when you're going to want to not take healing over some other things, especially if the benefits of other things aren't as good. Healing is an effective take over anything that you really could be using anyway. So, there we go. Now we're going to go on down. This right here, we got Toppling Charge. Now, cast time, it's instant. The target at an enemy, the range is 22 meters. That's a very long jump. So, and it's quite a mana intensive a little bit here and there, especially if you're spamming it. So don't be spamming this too much. 3,500 Magicka is quite a bit to be spamming. Uh, Puncturing Sweeps isn't as bad. It's only 2,500 about. So let's talk about Toppling Charge. Toppling charge with your Divine Lance and impale an enemy, dealing 3,000 magic damage, stunning them for 3 seconds and setting them off balance. And it interrupts if the target was casting. Now, that's going to help out with a lot of ranged. This build is kind of slow. We're a bit tanky here. Um, and we're just jumping right in. So you'll see as we build along how all this fits into each other. Now, we have 2 bars. So one bar is our, what we're going to call our two-handed bar. And in our two-handed bar, we're typically going to be running something like the Great Sword of Soulshine currently. I've been enjoying this set quite well, but you don't have to use any specific two-hander. Just use whatever you feel like is your favorite set, and this should work pretty well for you all around. Now, we're going to go on down to the passive abilities. Here's Piercing Sphere. Increases your crit damage by 10%, increasing your damage done to blocking targets by 10%. I mean, you're always going to want to take extra crit when you can. Crit damage is going to be your major pushing force with this build, Templars, you keep stacking that crit, and you're going to be hitting really hard. And it also increases your damage done to blocking targets by 10%. Now, that's going to be helpful, especially in PvP. However, most enemies in the world don't exactly block, but the benefit's there for a lot of content, so you're going to want to take it anyway. Now, Burning Light. When you deal damage with an Aedric Spear ability 4 times in rapid succession, you deal an extra, since we're Magicka, 3,000 magic damage to the target, whichever is higher. Now, that's really interesting because it lines perfectly up with Puncturing Sweeps, which does damage 4 times, as it says in the tooltip. So you're going to just really be getting the benefit of this quite regularly. That's extra damage on top. It's basically a free extra hit because Aedric Spear does about the same amount of damage as that does. So you're going to just be getting an extra hit. And you will always want an extra hit where you can take it. And what I always think is that the more buttons you're pressing, the more damage you're pumping out. Don't be standing still waiting. Alright. Balanced Warrior increases your weapon damage by 6% and spell resistance by 2600. Spell resistance is going to be phenomenal on this class. We're going to be using a lot of this. Alright, so now let's talk about our back bar here. We're going to be talking about Dawn's Wrath abilities. Now we only really take one ability and we take 2 passives. Now, the one ability we're going to be taking is Reflective Light. Blast up to 3 enemies with a charge of Radiant Heat, dealing flame damage, dealing 2,500 flame damage and an additional 5,000 about flame damage over the next 10 seconds. Now we're going to be reducing their movement speed for about 40% for 3 seconds. That's added bonus. We're going to be really using the movement speed disadvantage that we get from this class as much as possible. Upon activating this, however, we're going to increase our spell critical by 2600. Now go ahead and bump that spell critical up every time you get the chance, as we said earlier. Illuminate. This is in the passives tree. Now we're going to go down. Casting a Dawn's Wrath ability grants major sorcery to you and your group for 20 seconds, increasing all spell damage done by 10%. Now, I don't know about you, but I'll take an extra 10% damage, just throw it up, and go on. Now, reduces the health magicka and stamina and ultimate cost of all abilities. So health, magicka, stamina, and ultimate. All of them are all the costs are reduced by 2%. That's currently, I'm still leveling up Dawn's Wrath, so once we get in there, I think it'll be 4%. Always take the chance to reduce your magicka, stamina, and health cost. You're gonna appreciate what I'm telling you on it. So for our heal, this is still on our back bar here, and it's Honor the Dead. Beacon your inner light, healing yourself or a wounded ally in front of you for 7,000 health. Healing anyone who is below 75% health will restore 17% of the ability's cost for the next 6 seconds. And that is going to be phenomenal. It's a good big heal, especially on this build. You can see down there we're running about 30,000 health, clear 28,000, but you get what I'm saying. That's 7,000 health. That is 1/3 or 1/4 about of my health. So that's really, really good. It's really powerful. And we're going to be using that a lot. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and we're going to do something a little weird here. Now this is a Magicka build. And you're going to be asking, why am I running a 2-hander? The reason I'm running a 2-hander is I prefer the advantages of being up close and personal over a staff, and I like the staff, and I know it mixes better, but I don't like the upfront combat with staff, so this is my personal suggestion. If you wanted to make another suggestion, I would recommend running 2 Destro Stabs, but personally, I find this works best for the Vampire Templar situation that we have going on here. Now, I'm not taking any of the abilities in here. We're not a stamina build. We're not going to be utilizing our stamina as much, but we will be trying to use ways to negate others' stamina and, in general, control the battlefield more. So stamina will be good for blocking and parries and stuff like that, and dodges. So let's talk about the passives, though, that we are taking, because we are taking a few of them. So your light attacks damage up to 3 nearby enemies for 50% of the damage. Why is this great for you? Because this is the same effect as Puncturing Sweep. Except it doesn't do all the enemies, it just does 3 in front of you, but that's another good cleave. Cleave, 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 everything you can. There's no reason not to take cleave, especially whenever this game is so willing to hand it out. Now let's talk about heavy weapons. Now, this part can be a little complicated when it comes down to the how you want to math your character out, but swords increase your weapon and spell damage by 284. That's what I take. I like to have the weapon and spell damage added on. Axes increase critical and critical healing by 8%. That's interesting to me, but I feel like we're already stacking crits so high that taking the increased weapon damage and spell damage just seems like a better benefit to me. And maces increase your armor penetration. Now that's really good. You're going to want to penetrate all through every armor you can, but this build's already stacked up pretty well on pins, so we're going to just go ahead and say, I personally prefer swords. Battle Rush. Now increases your stamina recovery by 15% for 10 seconds after killing a target. Why do we take this? We're not a stamina build. Dodging. We're going to want to be dodging, running, sprinting, everything we can, especially in later stage Vampire, where you get the invisibility through sprint. This right here, you just might as well. It's free stamina, and I wouldn't leave it on the table if I could. So now we're going to talk about our back bar once again, because ESO has 2 weapon bars, and we're going to go through it all, because a lot of these abilities are spread out. Now, Crushing Shock focuses all of the elemental energies with your staff, blasted enemy for 1500 of all 3 elements. So that is 14,000 or 14,500 damage about, roughly, and it sets off balance. Remember, we're already running an ability that sets off balance. So remember that if we're setting them off balance, we might as well hit them again and stun them. So, alright. And we're also taking Trifocus. Now, Trifocus is going to be, we're going to be mostly running on this build, Lightning and Frost Stabs. Frost Stabs are amazing. They are powerful stabs, and you're going to love getting the full benefit out of them when it comes to the shield. Yes, yes, yes. Alright, so, Trifocus. Fully charge Inferno Staff, heavy attacks, deal 12,000 or deal 12% additional damage. Inferno Staves are great. I don't like them. Lightning Staves, however, heavy attacks damage nearby enemies for 100% of the damage that was done. That's extra cleave. We've already went on through this, so let's go ahead. Fully charged Ice Staff grant you a damage shield that absorbs 7,000 damage. That's amazing. That's great. And while Ice Staff is equipped, blocking uses Magicka instead of stamina. Remember, Magicka build, we have a lot more Magicka to be throwing around than we do stamina. Now, Elemental Forces will increase our chance to apply elemental statuses. I say go ahead and take it. Always be applying those elements, keeping things tight and neat so that everything can line up how you want them to. Ancient Knowledge. This is where I think it really makes a difference with Trifocus in combination. These two are so good, and they're going to benefit, your stabs are going to benefit from this completely. Equipping an Inferno Staff increases your damage done with a single target abilities by 4%. Equipping a Lightning Staff increases your damage done with area of effect abilities by 4%. Equipping an Ice Staff reduces the cost of blocking by 18% and increases the amount of damage you block by 10%. So now we're looking at this. Our main block hand. Well, that's going to be our staff. Might as well. We got all that Magicka. We're going to need to use it up. Alright. So, we've already gone through all this. Now we're going to go ahead and rapid fire a little bit quickly through the armor tree. Now, why am I going to do this? Well, because we're going to run both light and heavy armor. And these are going to be very beneficial to you on both. You're going to want to swap your gear around how you feel. But remember, Magicka comes from the light armor tree. Heavy armor brings you health. Now we're going to be using health as a resource, so you balance that how you feel. Both of these have very, very interesting perks. I think some of the best ones are personally spell warding to grant you a little bit extra spell resistance. I think Prodigy for the extra spell critical is great. And I also think that concentration for the increased spell pen is even better than all of these to combine. Now, Magicka recovery is also great, and reducing the cost is great as well. And I would also expect that most people who are running light armor are going to take evocation, but if you have to go down the tree and you were looking at what do you want to spend your pieces on, Grace would be my least likely to spend my points on, whereas Prodigy and Consecration would be the ones I would be focusing on mostly in this build. So alright, going on to heavy armor now. We're going to go ahead and just, like I said, we're rapid firing through all this. So some of the interesting ones that I would take on your first one, Resolve. Increases your spell and physical resistance by 350 for each piece equipped. Clear benefit there. It's not as strong as Prodigy, I'm pretty sure. Or not Prodigy, Consecration. It's not as strong as spell warding, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, see, so spell warding gives you 700 spell resistance, but the heavy armor gives you both. So, take as you want. Uh, Constitution, however, increases your health recovery by 4% for each piece, and you restore 100 magic and stamina whenever you take damage every 4 seconds. This is going to be fantastic. This is going to be able to help you sustain while you keep rolling through the punches. And Juggernaut increases your max health 2% for each piece worn. Like I said earlier, health is going to be a major resource here. And Revitalize increases the Magicka and stamina your heavy attacks restore by 4% for each piece worn. That is phenomenal. I would recommend taking that every single build. Doesn't matter what you're running, as long as you have heavy armor, get Revitalize, max that out. So let's talk about vampirism. We're going to go a little dark here. Swarming Scion. Transform into a monstrous creature of the night, instantly healing yourself to full health. While transform, your max health and magicka and stamina are increased by 10,000. You heal for 15% of the damage you deal, and you can see enemies through walls. Bat swarm also around you, shred enemies, dealing damage constantly. Now remember, you have a leech, and you're doing damage around you constantly, and you have all these extra cleave. This is going to make you godly. We're going to be using RDO Burst. This is going to rend the enemy for about 5,000 damage. Deals 33% more damage depending on your messing health. And if you're under 50%, you'll always be a crit. Here is where the build really shifts from a standard Magicka Templar into a Vampire Magicka Templar. Simmering Frenzy. Allow your monstrous appetite to take hold, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 640. While toggled on, the health cost of this ability will increase by 20%, but the weapon and spell stuff will increase by 10% as well. So, this right here is brutal if you do not know how to maintain it. And I will show you real quick while we have a minute. Right? So let's go ahead and click it on. Watch as my health drains, and you can see, real quick, I am taking a ton of damage, and this can kill you. So make sure you have things to restore that health up, such as we've already talked about, jabs. Continuing on with the build here, we also have Exhilarating Drain. This will restore health to you, dealing some damage. It restores about 23% of your missing health and regenerates 4% of your ultimate every second. Phenomenal. This may be a great way to build up some extra drain, or this might be an extra way to build up some ultimate, help you out with casting your vampirism here. Now, Hypnosis, you're going to need this if you plan to be a later stage vampire anyway, and you will probably figure that out whenever you realize that other NPCs won't talk to you if you're a later stage vampire. But this does have a combat use as well. Subdue the enemies around you, stunning them for 5 seconds if they're facing your direction. The stun, however, cannot be blocked. Powerful, powerful stun. That's going to really throw a big issue into them. Big stun is going to really throw a big issue to those big, heavy hitting stamina builds that really want to come and fight you. Moving on now, we're going to be using Assault Tree. Why are we using the Assault Tree? This isn't a PvP build necessarily. Well, here is Continuous Attack. Now, it does a bunch of things for people who want to do on Cyrodiil, but the reason we use it is to gain Major Gallop at all times, increasing our mount speed by 30%. This works out in the out in the open world. I've used it, it works, and it's worth it. Now let's talk about Breton. Many of you are probably wondering, this guy's a Breton, why isn't he a High Elf? Everyone runs High Elf, especially on Templars. High Elf, High Elf, High Elf. Why are we a Breton? Well, a couple reasons. One, I like the experience gain with Light Armor skill line. That was a big bonus for me early on in the game, but now that's not a big deal. And the Alliance points gained by 1%, not a big deal, but I do PvP quite a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and take that. You also gain the Max Magicka, 2000 Max Magicka. Just because you're a Breton, you're just passively good at magic. Spell Attunement. This increases your spell resistance by 2310. This effect is doubled, however, if you are affected with any of the staff things such as burning, chilled, or concussed, depending on the staff, inferno, ice, and lightning, and it increases your Magicka recovery by 130. Now, we're going to talk about Magicka Mastery. This is what made the difference for me overall when it came to the race picking. Reduces the cost of your Magicka abilities by 7%. Clear cut, simple, it works as it says, and that's a huge thing. So while this is a vampire build and we haven't gone through the passives yet, we are going to be saving Vampirism for a later video to going over it all. But here are some things you're going to want to know about this build and why we are specifically going to be running with the Breton. Remember this, your health recovery is 70 or 60% less. Flame damage taken, 13% more. Regular cost of our abilities is 8% more. Well, because we happen to be a Breton, we really negate all the way up to stage 3 almost. So, if you plan to be a vampire, I'd be a Breton. Alright, so talking about stats really quickly. Here's where my stat breakdown is. I have a 42 Magicka, a 17 in health, and 5 in stamina to help me continue rolling on. Gotta keep rolling. And so there, you can see here are our numbers on our maximum health, Magicka, and stamina, and here's our recovery. Remember that we are a vampire, so health recovery is reduced by 60%. We have a high spell damage and a weapon damage as well, which kind of happens. High spell resistance, 20,000 spell resistance, and a 14,000 physical resistance, as well as a 1,300 critical resistance. Now, you can go ahead and take however you want to take these things. My build is, as I've always stated, will never be exactly a meta build, and I am going to build it for my kind of fun. So, come back next time, everybody, and we will be talking about World of Warcraft next week. Well, everybody, we're here. We're at the end of the video. We've finally ran down all of our class and what we're doing on this Templar. Now, Remember, this build will change and all of my builds will change over time, so if you want to continue seeing the progress of my characters, come along with the journey with us, hit subscribe down below, like the video, and follow along. And thank you!